Rub-a-dub on his deck, sick and giddy, saw fame. There is more than one hook, is he cooking the books, puppeteering the strings on these little limbs. I will not take the pirate's name, nor be like smoke rings in his grim parade. But if I can huff and puff enough, I might blow his paper ship down, down, down. No, I will not take the pirate's name. There's no point kissing frogs if they just stay the same. Put him in a tower to grow his escape mane. Let him live with his stories till dawn comes again. No, I will not take the pirate's name. Then we are one and I'll not take the blame. Shall he lie on 10,000 beds and see if he can feel this fucking plea? Knock, knock, who's there? Is there anybody there? Knock, knock, who's there? Is there anybody there? Hello. Very nice to see you all again. I'm Rebecca Morden and I'm coming to you from a very warm and sunny day this time in the Salon de la Vie in the Lockdown Library. This is a little special re-record of last night's Salon. Yesterday I was staring down the abyss of an apple martini. I'm now just finishing off the apple juice. Cheers, push hearts. As it is somewhat not yet the yard over the noon arm, whatever that saying is. Yes, it's early in the day and I'm trying to get this a cleaner recording for you all so that you can enjoy what was hopefully enjoy what was a bit of a stilted go at it last night because of all the different ways we're learning about tech. So I won't bore you with those because my goodness they can be boring, but I just wanted to make sure this was a clean recording of the content for you so you can try and enjoy it. The reason I'm drinking apple juice is because the inspiration for the Salon for this week is Snow White, or rather the origin story to Snow White. Here's why I started thinking about Snow White. When I was a kid, like all kids, I loved fantasy, adventure, fairy tales. I just love fairy tales. And probably like all girls and women, and I think those watching it will really resonate, I hope, and I expect, that I really got excited every time a woman came into a story. So I'd be starting to read the fairy tale and I'd be like, oh my God, what's going to happen? And I'd get a long description of whoever the princess was. Usually, you know, she was pretty if she was good and ugly if she was bad. And then there wouldn't be much else that she did. And it was very, very disappointing and frustrating every time. I mean, the kind of real icons of feminine role models in these sort of stories, people like Snow White and Sleeping Beauty, are literally kept in stasis for their own stories. So this was very frustrating. And my mum, who's a brilliant radical feminist, tried to address it in loads of different ways. This is before the internet, of course. And she went all out to get me fairy stories that came from all over the world that had really active, really kick-ass heroines in them that really claimed some space and took some action. And that made me think a lot more recently about the way that we've taken more active heroines, perhaps more matrifocal than orally told traditions of storytelling have very active heroines in them. And then as patriarchy creeps in and we get women being pinned down a bit with the pen and with the printing press, we get a lot more passivity in our heroines. I mean, in these stories that my mum gave to me, I came across the great goddess Freya. Now, Freya, of course, is the goddess of, well, kind of everything in Nordic mythology at first. She's a really important Nordic god, the most important god at first. And she gets reduced down a little bit as patriarchy kicks in and she becomes the goddess of love and sexy times and things like that. But she still remains very, very active in her story and in the pantheon of the gods. I'm going to read you a bit now by the wonderful Mercedes Kemp. And it's about Freya and the kind of women that still worship Freya and how they evoke her. We were using this piece, we're very lucky to use it, and Sue, the wonderful Sue Hill, said it in a piece that we did last year with Creation Theatre called The Seacrest Saga. And the really weird thing is we should be in rehearsals for that now to do it down at Treba in Cornwall. And of course we're not, we're all doing this sort of stuff instead. So I'm putting this out to the team. It's a homage to the lovely time we had and that hopefully we'll have again. This is the origins of, this is how I teach you about Freya. I call upon you, great goddess Freya, give me strength. I invoke your powers as warrior, may your fierceness be mine. I ask for protection under your falcon wings. Make me safe in the midst of mine enemies. Grant me your fearsome presence. Picture this. You can see her coming down the distance like a storm. She comes riding in her chariot, pulled by her 2 cats, Beowulf and Tregul, given to her as kittens by Thor, god of thunder. They are tomcats, and they do not piss about. She wears her flying cloak of falcon feathers. At her feet, her sacred boar sniffs the salty air. Freya, she of the crimson hair, tall, stately, imperious, crowned. Although she wears the Brisinghium necklace carelessly, as one accustomed to priceless jewels, though it is said that necklace cost her 4 nights of passion with the dwarves who made it. Oh, Freya, goddess of the north. Her dominions are love, seduction, fertility, war and death. She can be found with her Valkyries in the aftermath of battle, gathering the dead, or half the dead, the other half belong to Odin. But even so, her cohorts are numerous. Those shovel-faced, behorned men from the north do like a scrap. Not a faint-hearted goddess, then. Good to have on your side in such troubled times as these. Great Mother Freya, they said the road was fraught with danger, and that death awaited any woman who travelled it. Thank you, Mother, for I am victorious. I adore you, dangerous one. I adore you, ever fierce. I adore you, friend of women. I adore you, who will not be bound. I adore you, who is best not crossed. So she's a bit awesome, isn't she? That's pretty spectacular stuff. But you will have possibly noticed that there's clues in there to the idea of the origin of Snow White. Yeah, the origin of the Snow White story is Freya. So she literally goes from being that vibrant like powerhouse of kind of anarchic awesomeness to literally being frozen in glass in a wood waiting for her Prince Charming after years of looking after various other men in her life. I sort of know which one I'd rather be, and I think that kind of reductionism is like it's massive cultural robbery from women everywhere and people. So I wrote a song about it, and the song was kind of about thinking, what if Snow White was in that glass coffin, as it is in the story, from her life of servitude as a royal and servitude literally to a group of men in the woods, and now she's just literally frozen waiting for yet another man. I wondered if she'd have flashbacks or moments that she might think of this previous incarnation, this previous life, and what that might be like for her. I wish, oh let it be a girl for me, with hair as black as ebony and such modesty. On her back she watches leaves and sky and the snow. Dimly she recalls that she used to know how a snowflake looked before when she gazed on it from above. The maid the little men adore thinks of warriors she used to love. Handsome heroes by the score, taste them sweat and feel them shove. Now she's frozen to the core, kept in glass, their snow white dove. Smother me in sand, deep within the wood. Polish me by hand, and I always will be good. The silence is lonely, she has to admit. It's grim since to the brothers she's had to submit. When a goddess and a queen, her days were loud, nights were warm, and she's not quite sure if it's obscene, but her pleasure came first in that land. She and Valkyries were seen on flying horses white and grand. Now she's watched to keep her clean, not a breath can mist the sand. Cover me in water, freeze me in the ice. I go to wife from daughter, and forever will be nice. At night time, her eyes watch her back in the glass, a mirror that will never allow her to pass. A mother's wish, a mother's curse, displayed her here pretty and bright. Is it for better or for worse that there's a prince on a charger of white? She learnt to smile and not be terse, not to pull faces, not to bite, to be their kitten and their nurse. Oh, mummy, can't you tell the story right? Mother, leave your daughter a Snow White legacy. Then the mirror ever caught her. When will Freya be set free? Skin of snow and lips of blood, so she can say, oh yes, I love you as I should, I'll always stay. Thank you very much. Sorry for a few wrong chords in there. I've sliced open my finger, my quite important chord playing finger, in a spiralising courgette-based accident, and I keep running the string of the uke into it. It's a bit unnerving. Anyway, I did notice that my lovely partner Adrian, who's doing the tech this, was swaying along to the end of that song, and he's had to do this night after night as we tried to get this tech right. So he's very kind to still look like he's not wanting to eat his own feet with boredom by now. So bless you, Adrian Walker. Oh, and you might be able to also hear my small dog, who's also locked in a room upstairs. What fun this is! To finish off the fun, I'm going to give you an example of how women take back that role of activity, of course, by writing and reclaiming their own stories and their fairy stories. And I really love the fact that I've chosen for this one a piece from Cornwall, the glorious homeland that no doubt me and my little pooch are missing, and the shining seas that we'll hopefully one day see again. And it's a retelling of the Rumpelstiltskin story. It's called Duffy and the Devil, and it really has the lead heroine very actively winning at life. It happened one day in the old days that the squire of the village needed a new housekeeper. His old housekeeper Jane had died, and since her eyes had grown quite dim in her old age, the squire's hall was now in a sad state. When the squire hired a crew at cider pressing time, his eye settled on the strong, sturdy figure of Duffy among the women picking apples. "Are you needing a job?" said the squire. "I am indeed," said Duffy. "Can you spin and knit and cook and clean?" "Oh, I make the best pies in the village," said Duffy, evading a bit of his question, "but I won't muck out the barns or pigsty." "No, I have a man for that," said the squire. "Come along tomorrow. I need someone to take old Jane's place." Well, Duffy was very pleased with her luck, until she saw the inside of the squire's hall. Cobwebs and dirt were everywhere, and though the squire had many bags of his own wool piled up in the storeroom, the spinning wheel was covered with dust. There had been neither yarn spun nor clothing knitted for a long time. "Oh, there's a bit of work to do here, but first you must spin some yarn and knit me some socks, for my feet are clear out of these." "And your vest and breeches are in no better state," thought Duffy grimly. "You can get on with it. I'll be out hunting all day." And off the squire went to the stables. Well, Duffy stood with her hands on her hips, surveying the sad state of the rooms. "Well," she thought, I'll clean up a bit and then I'll make some pies." When the squire returned hungry that night, he sniffed happily the fragrance of pies done to a turn. After downing a fair few of them, he stretched out his legs at the hearth. "My socks now. Have you started spinning the yarn for my socks?" "Tomorrow," said Duffy. But the next day, when Duffy confronted the huge sacks of wool waiting to be carded and spun, she groaned in dismay. Duffy was a cheerful soul and a good cook, but spinning was not a thing she liked to do, nor had she much skill at it. "There's no end of spinning and knitting to be done. The devil himself couldn't get through it all." "Oh, yes, I could!" And out from behind the woodpile at the hearth leapt a small, sharp-faced little man with a long tail. "Ah, Duffy, my dear, there's no need to work your fingers to the bone when all can be had for the wishing of it." "Oh, yes, and there'll be a price, no doubt." "Oh, no, dear Duffy, not a price, but a bargain betwixt us. All the spinning and knitting you could wish for 3 years, and at the end of that time you come away with me." "That's not much of a bargain." "Fair's fair. I was going to add that you must come away with me unless you can guess my name." "I always keep my bargains. You have the honest word of a gentleman." Now, Duffy knew very well this gentleman, as he called himself, was a devil. But as she watched the vain little man confidently swinging his tail, she thought, in 3 years' time I can get the best of this bargain. It shouldn't be too difficult to find out his name. Agreed. The little man nodded and smiled, and in the next moment had disappeared from sight. Duffy had more sense than to wish for everything at once. When the squire returned from hunting that evening with 2 unfortunate hares, he sat down by the fire. There was not only streaming pies waiting for him, but as fine a pair of long socks as ever was made. As the months passed, the squire became more and more pleased with his housekeeper. He was never tired of telling his neighbours about the fine socks Duffy produced for him. "I've worn these socks for almost a year now, and they're as good as new. Duffy's yarn is as strong as leather." Duffy kept the devil busily at work and was as pleased as could be with her bargain. She'd plenty of time to trot off to the grist mill in the afternoons, and there she'd gossip cheerfully with the other women of the village as they waited for their grain to be ground. They had a merry time of it, telling old tales and dancing a round or two on the bright green grass beside the mill. One evening, when the squire returned from his hunting, who should he find in the chimney corner but Hughie the widower? The friar scowled and scowled and snarled until finally Hughie took himself off. But the next night, Jock, the miller's son, was in the chimney corner. "What's he after?" growled the squire when Jock had left. "Well, I suppose he's come to sample my meat pies," said Duffy. Almost every evening there was someone sitting in the corner, and it didn't take the squire long to figure out that the widowers and bachelors of the village all had their eye on Duffy. "I'll lose my treasure," he thought in a panic. There was only one thing to be done. "Duffy, would you like to be a squire's wife?" "I would indeed." "Then we'd best get married." Duffy was now the squire's lady, but little else had changed. Aside from wearing finer clothes, she was the same cheerful Duffy, dancing and gossiping with the village women at the mill. She produced the same strong yarn and well-knit clothes. And every evening, when the squire returned from hunting, he found a tasty dinner and an orderly house. But the 3 years were running out. The sharp-faced little man started turning up among the wool sacks or on top of the chimney corner, jeering, "Only a month more, Duffy, my dear, and then away you go with me. You'll never guess my name." One day she threw a pot at him, but he vanished and it hit the wall and crashed and broke. At last she went off to see her old friend, Old Bet, at the mill. "I know a thing or two about devils and imps," said Old Bet. "Take a jug of the strongest applejack from the squire's cellar and bring it to me at sundown. Tonight's a full moon. The devils and witches are gathering to dance at the Devil's Basin out on the moors. I shall thump the tambourine for them. Come along now before they arrive." So Old Bet hurried off with Duffy trotting behind her. When they were almost at the Devil's Basin, a hollow on the moors, it was almost dark. "Hide yourself well in the furze bushes," ordered Bet, "and whatever happens, do not make a sound." So Duffy crouched down, and soon she heard a great rustling and crackling and clattering, and she wondered how many witches had flown into the place. Through her peephole in the bushes, she saw a fire lit. It burned with a high blue flame. Old Bet was sitting near the fire, and the jug of applejack was in front of her. She thumped her tambourine, and the dancing began. Round and round the dancers went, and the little devil with the long tail took a deep swig from the jug every time he passed it, until finally he was as loud and merry as a grig. Roaring with drunken laughter, he jumped up and down, twirling his tail and singing, "Duffy, my lady, you'll never guess that. My name is Terry Top, Terry Top, Terry Top." At that moment, the baying of hounds after hare filled the air. Across the moor in the moonlight rode the squire and his hounds, heading straight for the Devil's Basin. With a screech and a whoop, the dancers vanished. Duffy scrambled out of the furze bushes and ran like the wind for home. She barely had time to stir the stew and settle down panting in front of the fire before the squire came in. "What a bad time I've had this day. Not a hair did the hounds raise till after sundown. And a funny thing happened, Duffy. We chased that hare all over the moor by moonlight until we headed straight for the pack of witches dancing round a fire. What do you think of that, Duffy?" Duffy shook her head in wonder. "Well, it's bad enough luck, as I've told you many times, to chase a hare without bearing in on witches dancing. What did they do?" "Well, they up and disappeared in a flash. Nothing left that I could see but an empty jug lying on the moor. No, I didn't go too close to it, for I feared the witch's curse. And I never did get that hare." The 3 years of Duffy's bargain were up. On the appointed day, the sharp-faced little devil appeared in Duffy's kitchen. "Your time's up, Duffy, my dear," he said, smirking and flicking his tail. "I've kept nigh part the bargain, now off you go with me." "Not so fast, sir," said Duffy. "There was more to the bargain than that." "Ah, you think you can guess my name? Well, I'll give you 3 guesses. Maybe it's Lucifer." "Oh, an acquaintance of mine." "Is it Beelzebub?" "Oh, a cousin of mine, but a very low, common sort." "Now come along. You'll never guess my name. It's not generally known on Earth." And he made as if to lay hands on her. "Oh, no, you don't," said Duffy, dodging out of his reach. "Are you honest enough to admit that your name is Terrytop?" The devil glared at her in rage. "Do you deny your name is Terrytop?" "A gentleman never denies his name, but I didn't expect to be beaten by a minx like you." And with a puff of smoke, the devil disappeared, never to return. A moment later, everything in the house that the devil had spun or knitted turned to dust. When this happened, the squire was far away on the moors, hunting as usual. It was a cold day with a piercing wind. Suddenly, his long socks dropped off, then his breeches, and then every garment that was homespun, till he was clad in nothing at all but his leather shoes and jerkin. He arrived home, blue with cold and shivering like a leaf. "Oh, Duffy, you see what's happened to me. It must be the witch's curse for breaking up their dance. Oh, bring me some stockings and breeches quickly." "All the yarn goods in the house must be cursed as well, for they've all turned to dust." "Oh, but you can spin me more, Duffy." "It will do no good. You can see all the spinning and knitting done in this house will be cursed. We'd best have the work done elsewhere." So the squire's spinning and knitting were done in the village. Duffy was well content with her bargain, and the squire lived happily ever after, never daring to hunt a hare again. So thank you so much for bearing with us and kind of going on this journey of tech with us. What we've done today is a pre-record, so we're going to put it up, and we could do the salons like this. I could be on the message board live with you, and these pre-records could go out if you think the quality is better and that you'd enjoy them more this way. If you prefer the thrill of watching me sit here in terror at 7:30 on a Wednesday, knowing it's going out live and I can't stop it, but it's broken and a bit out of sync until our internet kind of gets better, I guess, then let me know. I'm really open to being talked to about how we do these. You can check in with us at Scary Little Girls, www.co.uk, or you can email me, becca@scarylittle.girls.co.uk. All the emails that go to the website come to me anyway. Okay, so it's been wonderful to see you. I've also had a tech naming competition because we've got really involved in that and it was brilliant. I loved the name Trixie because tech is Trixie to me. It's why I'm trying to name it. I've been calling things like my microphone is Lydia because she's quite intimidating, isn't she? So I've tried to emasculate her a bit. I like to think she looks like R2-D2 rather than anything else. Anyway, so we had we wanted a name for our stand. So Trixie we really liked. Em, I love the name you sent me, Alana. I'm going to read those books. They sound brilliant. But the name I've plumped for is Kitty because it's Jilly sent in. Thank you, Jilly. Because it's a link to one of the women who's involved in the Actresses Franchise League who we're talking about in our next salon. So I thought that'd be quite exciting. Thank you so much again for all of your support, and I'm going to give you another cheers, push hearts, and I'm Rebecca Morden. I'm the Artistic Director of Scary Little Girls. Thanking you for watching, thanking all my team, and wishing you all an active and vibrant happy ever after. Push hearts. Cheers.